Parents flew across the country for my sister's gallery opening. They couldn't make my college graduation. Mom said, "We'll celebrate later." Then my professor mentioned my name during his speech, and I got a call from Dad asking, "Why didn't you tell us?" I found out my parents weren't coming to my graduation 3 weeks before the ceremony. Not through a conversation, through a Facebook post. My sister Vanessa had announced her gallery opening in Portland, the same weekend as my graduation. The comments were filled with my parents gushing about how proud they were, how they'd already booked flights. When I called Mom, she sounded annoyed that I was bringing it up. "We'll celebrate later, sweetie. Vanessa's worked so hard for this. It's her big moment." What about my big moment? You'll have other achievements? This is Vanessa's first real gallery show. It's once in a lifetime. I wanted to scream that graduating summa cum laude after working 2 jobs was also once in a lifetime, but I just said okay and hung up. Graduation day arrived gray and cold. I sat with my cohort scanning the family section out of habit, even though I knew it was empty. My roommate Sarah's entire extended family was there, 3 rows deep, holding a banner. When they called my name, I walked across that stage alone. The applause felt hollow. Then came the departmental awards ceremony afterward. I almost skipped it. I was exhausted, emotionally drained, ready to go home and pretend this day didn't hurt as much as it did. But Professor Chen had specifically asked me to attend, so I dragged myself to the lecture hall. He started his speech talking about academic excellence and students who embodied the department's values. Then he said my name, this year's recipient of the Henderson Research Fellowship. Full funding for graduate school plus a $45,000 stipend goes to someone who's published 3 papers as an undergraduate, maintained a 4.0 while working 25 hours a week, and whose thesis on renewable energy systems is already being cited by industry leaders. The room erupted. People I barely knew were standing, cheering. Professor Chen continued, "This student will be joining Stanford's PhD program in the fall, and we couldn't be prouder." I was shaking. The Henderson Fellowship was the most prestigious award our department offered. Only 1 student every 3 years. I'd applied, but never thought I had a chance against people whose parents funded their research, who didn't have to choose between lab time and rent money. As I walked to the stage in complete shock, my phone started buzzing in my pocket. Then it didn't stop. By the time I returned to my seat, I had 17 missed calls from Dad, 9 from Mom, texts flooding in. The first one I opened made me laugh out loud. "Dad, why didn't you tell us about the Henderson Fellowship? This changes everything." We would have been there. I stared at that message, something cold settling in my chest. They knew about my graduation, the date, the time, the significance. What they didn't know was whether I'd accomplished anything worth witnessing. Mom's text came next, syrupy and desperate. "We had no idea you were receiving such a major award. We thought it was just a regular ceremony. Congratulations, honey. Can we video call?" I turned my phone off. That night, Vanessa called from a random number I hadn't blocked yet. She was crying. "Mom and Dad are losing it. They're saying they made a terrible mistake." Her voice cracked. "They want to fly back tonight. They're talking about throwing you a party. Tell them I said no, but they feel awful." Good, they should. I worked for 4 years, submitted my thesis, told them about my research. They never once asked if it mattered. She went quiet, then whispered something that surprised me. "I told them not to come to my opening." "What?" "I told them to go to your graduation instead. They chose me anyway. I wanted to tell you, but Dad said, you'd understand because you're the reasonable one." I hung up. 2 months later, they're still trying. Apology texts, offers to visit, promises to do better, but every message proves they still don't understand. They're sorry they missed a prestigious award ceremony. They're not sorry they missed me. Last week, Mom sent a card with a check for $5,000. "Congratulations on your fellowship. We're so proud." I mailed it back with one line. "You missed the part where pride required showing up."